That piece, we're not going to cross live to him. Maageketla Mohlabe. Thobela le kae Maageketla?
Thobela khaijedi rona le kae?
Go iragalang mo leleng?
Well, Desiree, good morning to you and, of course, to our viewers at home. Well, what I can tell you today is that we are expecting city manager from the Johannesburg municipality to take the stand. And, of course, in that particular submission, you would expect him to be grilled on the recent events that took place in Alexandra. We know that there were about 80 houses that were demolished by red ants following some court interdict, and we will get to understand really who authorized that particular move by the city of Johannesburg, or was it by the city of Johannesburg? Of course, conflicting information coming through, so he will be able to clarify as to what really transpired there in Alex. And of course, we understand that there were other reports saying that Mayor Herman Mashaba will be going back to Alexandra to rebuild those houses again. This particular incident causing some division among Alexandra residents. We know that Total Shutdown movement leaders saying that this move by Herman Mashaba really undermines that particular protest that we saw in April. They are saying that there is no way they are going to allow Herman Mashaba to come in Alexandra to rebuild those houses, as we know that there are thousands of other people that actually are still waiting for better housing in Alexandra. On the other side, they are saying that the fact that this particular demolition took place, why did it actually have to go that way in the first place? Who actually authorized that particular move? So that particular clarity we're going to be able to get from this particular panel today. On the other side, we know that Water and Sanitation Department will also be making submissions after the city manager has made his. So these are some of the issues that we'll basically be hearing from both sides. And of course, with regards to water and sanitation, you'd recall that the issues of Alexandra, and these are some of the issues that kept coming throughout that particular protest, the issue of raw sewage flowing in the streets of Alexandra. We know we did some of the stories with regards to some of the graves sinking into raw sewage. And of course, I remember the city manager saying that they are doing their best to actually clean these particular graveyards. But then it remains to be seen what he's going to be saying today in terms of that particular point. Again, just taking you back to yesterday, and that's what you saw in that particular piece. DG or Director General from Premier's office, of course, coming through to say that she wants this particular commission to apologize. And this is, of course, on the back of what the commission said. They said that they were actually considering to subpoena her to come and appear before the commission based on the fact that on 2 occasions, she failed to appear before the commission, and this, of course, simply because of a family bereavement, which, according to the commission, they did not get any correspondence to clarify her position. But, of course, as you heard in that particular piece, the commission refused to apologize because they said that they were only considering to subpoena her. They didn't say they were going to subpoena her.
But will Ms. Baleni now be appearing?
Of course, she did appear yesterday, and of course, she did make her submissions. And throughout that submission, she kept on emphasizing the fact that there was nothing more she could add over what her counterparts from the Human Settlements Department, as well as, the Human Settlements Department, both provincial and national, did. You recall that just about 2 weeks ago, both provincial and national Human Settlement Departments did make their submissions, of course, detailing their plans to intervene in these particular service delivery issues affecting Alexandra. So what she kept on mentioning is that there was nothing more she could add onto what her counterparts mentioned.
Maageketla, what do you know about reported death threats on investigators in this process?
Of course, I mean, that's one of the things that actually kept coming through ever since the start of this particular commission. And I'm sure I will be able to bring the chair to just clarify these issues for us. Could you please just join us? That's Juan Jones, the chairperson of this particular commission, just to tell us about these particular threads that you said they were coming through. Can you just clarify to us what actually happened throughout this particular commission in terms of the threads that we had that were coming through?
Well, I've been getting calls since we initiated this process, and calls of the threatening nature, but we are not deterred. I am determined to serve South Africans. We know as human rights defenders that these are the kinds of dangers we will face when we speak truth to power. I have chosen the risk of death instead of life and comfort. I've chosen moral authority and moral duty instead of falsehood. And our role is to unearth the truth and to ensure that government and those responsible take the necessary remedial action to ameliorate the conditions of the people of Alexandra.
Can you just then clarify this to us? Are these threats coming through phone calls or text messages?
It's phone calls. Yeah, it's phone calls, and they are receiving attention from the commission, and we are hopeful that people will stop doing this, as this process is meant to find solutions. And this is not a fault-finding exercise. We are looking at solutions that will ensure that we never have an inquiry of this nature again.
And is this the first time you are receiving this kind of threats throughout some of the inquiries? I remember you did VAL, you did other inquiries as well. Is the first time in this position you find yourself in?
Well, this is the first time, but I'm used to threats. I was the provincial manager at some point in the Free State, and given the volatile political environment in the Free State, I decided to leave Free State to come and work in Gauteng. So I'm used to threats. I'm very independent. I'm very determined. I'm very passionate about my work as a human rights defender, as an attorney. So I don't think they will succeed, because the people of South Africa will protect me.
I don't know if you can just give us a picture. These threads, what are they saying exactly? Because here you are here to actually investigate the issue of service delivery in Alexandra. And of course, the Alex Renewal Project as well is in the spotlight. I know there is Public Protector's Office here who are focusing on that particular point, but which point are they actually focusing on, this particular threat?
Well, you know, the main issue is the Alex Renewal Project, because there are allegations that money was squandered through corrupt means, and we are still probing those allegations. This is a joint investigation between us and the Public Protector, and our approach is very holistic to look at the entirety of the project and the resultant manifestations, which are the current socio-economic conditions in Alex. So I guess this might come from people who might be involved or were involved in the ARP project, because we will get to the bottom of what happened to the money, how it was spent, and we will ensure that there's a full forensic probe, and those who are responsible should be held accountable.
Thanks so much for your time. All the best. Of course, Juan Jones, he's the Gauteng manager from the Human Rights Commission, trying to clarify all those threats that have been coming through. And of course, he says that these are mainly based on the Alex Renewal Project. We know that it was a project meant to benefit thousands of people of Alexandra in terms of housing as well as bulk infrastructure. So it remains to be seen what's going to come out from this particular report. But of course, as I mentioned earlier, Desiree, City Manager, as well as Water and Sanitation departments are expected to make their submissions in this inquiry today.
Maageketla Mohlabe, thank you so much for that update. Before I move on to another